Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Claudia Bonfiglioli. I'm General Manager Informa Market Beauty Division and International Director, China Beauty Expo. On behalf of Informa Market and Buy One, I wish all of you Happy New Year, hoping 2021 will be more gentle with all of us. We have seen a fantastic China Beauty Expo in 2020. China Beauty Expo has been the only international business-to-business professional beauty event that could run in the world. We could welcome international companies with headquarters in China and welcome international companies with a long-lasting cooperation with the Chinese market. We really hope to meet you in person very soon. In the meantime, we are still facing some challenges, but we are very positive because we know that humans adapt very well. Humans find always their way. Humans will be very able to find a new business way. China is there, Chinese market is growing, and China will be the fastest recovering market in the world. Together with me in the panel of the speaker today, we welcome experts to share knowledge on the Chinese market. We welcome Hui Chang, Director of Beauty Division of Kantar, talking about different segments of the beauty market in China and sharing data. We welcome Ilyaja Woley, Chief Manager Officer of Parlux by Launch Matrix, talking about digital and key opinion leader. And every time we talk about China, we need to be very well aware of the new rules and regulation of importing product into the Chinese market. And we welcome Jason Chang of Jinzhao Zahao, International Regulatory Affairs Director, talking about the new feature to import a product in China. I will be part of this panel of the speaker and I will share some insight of China Beauty Expo. I welcome on the virtual stage Hui Chang, Director of Beauty Division of Kantar.
Thank you, Claudia. Hello, everybody. My name is Hui, and I'm from Kantar World Panel, leading the China beauty business. And today I would like to talk about how China beauty market is rebounding and going into the phase of new normal, and how some of the brands are actually persistently growing, and then what might be the secrets behind that. So the pandemics of the coronavirus have impacted the beauty market, especially compared to the total FMCG, rather significantly. You can see in the past, from 2017 to 2019, the personal care market outperformed the total FMCG by a great deal, and they continued to record a double-digit growth for as long as we can remember. However, during the first half of the 2020, the market plummeted, partially because the mobility and the going out occasions were limited. However, what we see these days is that the market is actually starting to rebound, and in Q4 especially, the performance of both the makeup and the skincare, as well as other personal care categories like hair care and body, were very, very strong. Just one quick look at how the market has moved. We actually project that if there was no coronavirus situations, the China personal care market would have grown by 9%. However, we actually saw the negative 5% decline, which actually translates to the loss of the 25 billion RMB in the market value due to the pandemics. But as I was saying in the previous slide, the market is actually on the recovery path, and then this trajectory is continuing into the second half of the year. So there were not all categories were negatively affected by the coronavirus situation. So there were some categories that were positively impacted even so, and those are classified as the booming categories in gold colors. And they're the body wash and the hand wash, with the vigilance of the consumers and awareness about the importance of the personal hygiene. So these categories have actually took off, and it's not just in the personal category, but also in the household category, where we saw a very significant growth of the disinfectant category, as well as the related segments in laundry detergent, dishwash, and surface cleaning market as well. And then there were some categories that was actually that saw a dip in the beginning of the pandemics. However, it actually recovered. We call them recovering categories. They're mostly the V-shaped recovery categories. And then some of them are shampoo and conditioner, hair colorant, skincare, and fragrance. What's happening for these categories is that there a lot of the consumers, they have a certain amount of in-home inventory and stock. And then they actually opted to go through those inventories first before risking going out and making additional purchases and so on and so forth. However, when those existing inventory ran out, then they actually decide to make a purchase either through the neighboring small stores in their neighborhood or through online. And then there are categories that are actually lagging behind the others. And then there were catching up categories, and the makeup and the deodorant. These are the categories that is very, very heavily dependent on the going out occasions. And then they were the ones that were hit the most significantly. Also common for these categories is that their growth and then the overall market performance heavily depends on the young demographic, especially the ones between the 15 and 24. So they're either college students or the very young professionals whose job or the going out occasions were more severely affected than the others. So relating to their demographic market makeup, so these categories' performance were more severely impacted, and then they're lagging behind. But we do see a very positive turnaround in the second half of the 2000 nonetheless. So before we go further, I want to talk about how Chinese consumers have evolved and become more sophisticated, not just in the beauty market, but in the overall life as well. So there is a very strong sense of self that is exhibiting in the way that they are living everyday life. So on the right-hand side, we have some pictures that is reflective of these trends. So there are a lot of sharing on the Xiaohongshu or Weibo, which are social platforms in China. You can think of it to equivalent of Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook in the Western world. So what we actually see here is that how to make a beautiful bath to pamper yourself. And then what are some of the food items that is both healthy and beautiful to look at. And these are all reflective of consumers becoming more aware and willing to invest in making their life and taking care of themselves and pampering themselves. And a lot of brands and the retailers are actually catching on to this trend, and they are trying to resonate a similar message in their marketing campaigns. So in Xiaohongshu, there was actually a campaign that talked about you deserve the best, and then they highlight some of the most famous luxury cosmetics items. In Tmall, they actually had another campaign that actually said present for yourself. Gift is usually something that you buy for somebody that you care about, but at the end of the day, you're the one person that you should care about the most. So get a nice present for yourself and treat yourself. This was a communication message. And then Weibo, there was a facial mask. I'm not talking about the mask that we have to wear these every day, but the facial mask so that you are actually able to take care of yourself and then live your life in a pretty, as well as being able to enjoy different moments of your life. So there were these different types of the campaigns that was run by different brands as well as retailers that is catching on to how consumers are becoming more and more interested in oneself. And Of course, this is most easily translated to the cosmetics market because this is the market is essentially anchored around how to make yourself look better, both fundamentally from the skin condition as well as to makeup through different makeup. And then the percentage number of consumers who have shown strong interest in cosmetics, according to the usage panel data from our company, have shown a strong increase by 10%, despite of the fact that consumers were locked down and their mobility limited in the first half of the year. And the behavioral changes of the consumers can also be summarized to SELF, self, but in a little bit of a different meaning. So first is a sensible price, and then the second one is the e-commerce boom. Third, local brands rise, and then the lastly, fundamental needs. So I'm going to go through these four SELF elements that we saw that constitute the new normal in the way that the Chinese consumers are behaving post-coronavirus period in China. So first is the sensible price. And when we actually look at the left-hand side chart, what it shows is the growth trajectory by the price segment. So the highest price tier is called luxury, premium, and the masstige and mass. And then you can see pre-coronavirus period, that luxury was the market that was actually leading the overall market growth, followed by the premium, masstige, and mass. It was a very classic premiumization trend that was continuing to happen in the market. However, when the coronavirus hit in the February of the 2020, the harshest, the biggest drop that actually happened was actually from the luxury market. And then everybody was panicking. Oh, is it the end of the luxury market? However, what we see is it was the first to recover and then continue to recover. So for the luxury brands, the market dynamics has not exactly changed too much in terms of the growth potential as well as the momentum at the moment. However, what changed was the rest of the price tiers. What you see right after the luxury is now the mass. It is the lowest of the price tier where the value proposition actually works to the best as a core of the brand benefit, brand strength. Followed by the masstige and the premium. So what we see is a clear demonstration of the premiumization from the pre-coronavirus period and now to the demand being split between the luxury and mass, and then the middle portion of the market showing more stagnated trends. This is demand shift. You can see is a shift to polarization rather than the premiumization. Means that the consumers are becoming more discerning when they're actually making choices of different products. And general trend is that the luxury and premium brands, their strength remains with the efficacy or the high-end products, such as a serum, essence water, and the facial essence. There's more modicum of trust that the consumers have to the well-known brands and the high-end brands when it comes to efficacy products. However, for the products that you use every day as the baseline, basic care products like a facial wash, facial moisturizer, as well as a lot of the makeup products, they are seeing a stronger growth path and with the masstige and the mass brands at the moment. And it's actually important to look at how these changes are happening from who. So what you see here is the different consumer groups. So it anchors around different price city tiers in China, as well as their income and their ages. And then what you see here on the line chart in the middle portion of the slide is that the 30s younger consumers, they are definitely the outperforming consumers. And then there are high income, or we call them middle income, in both the higher tier here and then lower tier cities. They're outperforming, so the high potential groups. Along with them comes with the aging society potential, with the older consumers actually outperforming the overall market. But I want to actually focus a little more on the middle income consumers that you see in the middle portion here. So what we see here is a tug of war between the aspirational pursuit versus the pragmatism, where people are looking for um, more greater value to the purchases that they're making. And you can see that higher tier city consumers versus the lower tier city consumers are continuing on the path of aspirational pursuit, and they're tapping into more luxury goods, and not just in the cosmetics but across all of the markets. Whereas the higher tier city consumers, they are actually becoming more discerning in the way that they're making choices. And they are tapping into more mass and masstige products. It doesn't mean that they only buy mass and masstige, but they're becoming more selective in which products do you buy in the luxury tier and the luxury brands, and then which products to buy from the mass and masstige brands. And a part of this change is actually the disposable income battle. In the higher tier cities, if your income is a little more limited due to the industry downturn with the coronavirus happening, you have a bigger portion of your money that's tied up in the higher level of rent as well as educational cost. So your spending ability is more restricted than in the lower tier cities. And people have to look at what are the places where I need to find even better value than I had before. And that's what we see here. So the sensible price trend, of course, it is nationwide trend that we see that's impacting the personal care category, especially the beauty categories, but it is being led more significantly in the upper tier city. Next is the e-commerce boom. So with the coronavirus, everybody's mobility being limited and the delivery service is still working. We saw a boom in green, as you can see, during the coronavirus of the online and the offline. The momentum was severely affected. And this was actually common not just in the beauty market, but across all of the FMCG. But after the coronavirus period, you actually see the online market further booming and accelerating. And this is actually the channel development gaining more depth in terms of the layer of the consumer. So previously it was primarily the young consumers who are tapping into the online, but about 40% of the new entrants to the channel and e-commerce channel were actually the older generation. So this e-commerce channel is becoming a part of everyday life for the older generations as well. And then a coronavirus period and the lockdown period actually worked as a catalyst for such changes. And offline is not all lost. You can actually see it is on the recovery path from where it was during the coronavirus period. And that this recovery is actually further fueled by the O2O development, as well as some of the specialty channels, such as department store or cosmetic stores, where they emphasize the benefit of consumers actually being physically being in the stores. So they are able to offer the unique strength that they have, and then we have some learnings related to it later. Earlier I mentioned that the mass and masstige brands are actually performing very well, and then this in part is actually driven by the consumers being more conscious about the products that they're buying and what is the value being delivered, but also it also is led by their agileness. So first of all, they don't just rely on e-commerce, but they also make sure that they have very strong presence in the offline channel as well to allow physical access and visibility in modern trade. So you can see here that these brands, they not only grew in e-commerce, which is given, but also they had a very strong growth in modern trade. I just want to make one quick example of the Winona brand, for instance. It's a very unique brand. It's a derma brand in China. And they actually had a presence in the pharmacy that helped them with their brand equity as from a derma specialized brand. So it is something that is available in the pharmacy, and this actually was one of the pillars that drove the brand's strong strength along with the e-commerce presence. And they're very agile, not only in the product launches, but in making sure that their products are positioned in a way that the consumers need and in that moment. So when the coronavirus hit, the Winona, the brand that I was previously talking about, they launched a live streaming show with the professional physicians about how mask wearing can cause skin sensitivity and how some of the Winona products can actually help with such needs. It is a very to the point of the pains that the consumers are actually feeling depending on what kind of things that they're going through in everyday life. And they stepped up to position their brands as the best help that they can consumers can get. Of course, the help might be a bit of a stretch when we come to the makeup brands because makeup is more the ornament of the face, but it is more playing on the emotion. So the Perfect Diary, one of the stars to come out of the coronavirus, is a makeup brand. They actually launched the makeup tutorial about when you're wearing a mask, the rest of your face is hidden behind the mask, but your eyes become that much more important because this is the only way that you can express yourself. And they actually had a live streaming video launched on that particular topic. And it's actually banking on how makeup became not just a beauty category, but an entertainment category for a lot of the young consumers because people are locked down at home. They're trying to find different ways to entertain themselves. And then you will actually be able to find a lot of the Weibo or Xiaohongshu clips about different looks that the people are actually trying on their face and then sharing the makeup tips with the other consumers and then try to get different feedback and so on and so forth. So Perfect Diary actually were very much on sync with such core needs that the consumers had, and not necessarily on the functional front, not only on the functional front, but also on the emotional front as well. And talking of those needs, there are fundamental needs that is actually emerging because of the coronavirus. People are becoming more and more conscious about the safety. They are looking for products and then the ingredients that can actually give them a sense of safety, as well as people's interest in repair and health. It's significantly increasing. So in just like a 2 month with the coronavirus breakout, number of females that actually use facial care to repair skin. Now, before it's more about brighten my skin tones or reduce the visibility of my wrinkles and so on and so forth. But actually repair my skin becoming the motivation for the skincare usage increased by 13 million versus a year ago. That is a very significant amount. And what this actually reflects is that the people are looking not necessarily for the quick fix, but fundamental changes on the condition of my skin so that I can look better, feel better, and become healthier. And this is actually becoming a very, very important trend, the repair. And their interest in sustainability, not just for themselves, but for the environment as a whole, has also increased. Actually, according to the Who Care Who Does survey that Contemporary panel run last year, it shows that 81% of the consumers are willing to pay extra for the product, which is environmentally friendly and degradable. I guess we're primarily thinking about plastic, but in general, consumers are becoming more and more aware and of the issues with the environment, because environment is not necessarily separate from yourself, but it is something that will actually affect our life. So if there is something that we can do to actually protect the environment, then it will actually end up helping my well-being as well. So I just want to point out these fundamental needs that have been rising to be very, very important for Chinese consumers. And I want to have spent a quick moment on this topic of repair. So previously I mentioned how 13 million female consumers in just 2 months, they actually claimed the core motivation for their product usage in skincare was actually repair, repairing my skin. And this actually goes to the evolution of the beauty. When beauty market actually first sprouts in any market, it usually go from making myself look pretty And then it actually goes into a little more fundamental level of protection. So protect my skin from the pollutions or the sun damage and so on and so forth, to fortify. So protection is more of a passive way of acting, whereas fortify is more proactive way. So I'm gonna make sure that uh, my skin is strong enough so that it can fend off all the adversity that is actually coming my way. So this is actually where we are in the China market at the moment. And then when we further actually grow, it will enter the phase of the clean beauty, which we did actually see in Korea. But in China, this is 45 is the stage that Chinese consumers are in terms of the evolution of the beauty. And with this comes a lot of need for skin barrier related communication, because skin is basically the last line of a defense between the outside world with a lot of scary, harmful effects and me. And making sure that my skin is fortified, my skin barrier becomes stronger, and then my skin barrier is repaired, it will ensure that I am able to live a beautiful life. And this is actually an area where a lot of the brands are starting to make a strong communication on. And it's very timely because the prolonged mask wearing has caused a lot of trouble for the skin, and a lot of consumers are becoming more and more aware and complaining about how their skin is becoming more sensitive. And there is a lot of traffic that is actually being generated about skin sensitivity. So you can see a very sharp increase in the number of posts shared on the Xiaohongshu on a monthly level. And then there was a massive increase in terms of the consumer voice relating to this area. And there are a lot of brands that is actually banking on this at the same time. And that actually led to the surge or the second leap for the derma segment in the market, that derma market. So with these brands building their equity around how they're the skin sensitivity expert, and being able to repair the trouble and then create better skin barrier for you, scientifically and professionally backed by pharmacies, universities, and the medical institutes, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all these changes, SELF, a sensible price, e-commerce boom, local brand rise, and fundamental needs. So how can brands grow given such self-pursuit in the market? So it depends on what kind of brands you are. So for the more mass brands or the masstige brands, there needs to be a building of a distinctive expertise. What I mean by this is a very well-known brands, the big brands, they actually have their presence across all of the regimens and all of the segments. I say, oh, I can do anti-aging, I can do hydration, I can do whitening. They talk about they can do everything. However, nowadays the pickup is actually on making sure that you have a very distinctive expertise. So we know that, as I mentioned previously, they talk specifically about the derma and then skin sensitivity and repair expertise. And there's another brand called Afu that talks about that they are essential oil specialists, and they emphasize how not they are able to address the needs for the skin repair and then the skin care, but because of the essential oil and aromatic um, element from their product can bring them bring to the consumers the emotional healing effect as well. So it is a very distinctive market positioning that they have tried to build, and then it actually has paid off, and then their performance is very, very strong. And making sure that your communication messages have something, give consumers a talkability. So of course, having a very strong equity and distinctive equity helps, but consumers need to want to talk about you, and there needs to be some level of a fun or trendy elements there. And this is where a lot of Chinese brands did really, really strongly, both Huashizhi and Wan Mei Perfect Diary. They had very unique, fashionable or the cultural elements in the products that they launch or the campaigns that they launch. So Perfect Diary, they have besides the live streaming shows, they have a lot of different new launches that's collaborating with the British Museum or National Geography. So they have products that are very transcendent in the way that consumers look at it and say, oh, this is a very fancy British Museum item that's reflective of the Egyptian architects and blah, 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 blah. And then with very famous KOLs talking about them, it adds to the talkability of the brands. It's fun, it's unique, and then consumers want to talk about it and then become the secondary ambassador to the brand. And then, as I mentioned, Forest of Huashizi, they have a theme song that is anchored very much around the Chinese culture, as well as their lipstick having a very unique carving around them that is very, very Chinese. And that has actually led to the talkability of the brands among the consumers. Okay, so this is what you do when you're in a lower tier, the smaller brands. But what do you do when you're a big brand and you're already well known and you're expensive? Actually, if you are one of those, then it's the news is not necessarily that bad. As you saw, the luxury was the first to recover, and then now it's leading the market as well. And what we saw is luxury skincare was the first to recover, top 10 international market. You can see here, and then Estee Lauder, SK2, Lancome, and Guerlain were some of the brands that was actually leading such differences. And how they were able to distinguish themselves was that they actually highlighted and it leaned very heavily on the science and the legacy of their brands, really building their communication around the authenticity and the trust that not just the Chinese consumers, but the global consumers have endowed upon them. So this becomes a very essence of their communication as well as market positioning, and they actually offer experience. If you're a luxury brand, you are actually delivering more than the immediate effect of the skin relief. You're actually also delivering on the emotion of the things, and that people feel more pampered and then cherished. And a lot of the spa services or the VIP consumer events, these are all built around creating an experience that is coveted by the bigger public. So when a consumer buys this product, they feel they're valued and cherished, and it's something that they can actually talk to their friends about, put a post on the social media, and so on and so forth. Yes. And lastly, a diversified platform usage is really, really important. And yes, of course, you cannot ignore the importance of the e-commerce. However, e-commerce can get you only so far. So when we actually look at the beauty brands from the past 3 years in China, the brands that actually invest solely on the e-commerce, that can actually limit the expandability of your brands. The maximum penetration that you can actually reach is 2% if you are 60 plus in terms of the reliance of your business on e-commerce. So actually the ideal rate of the e-commerce dependence for your new user recruitment is somewhere between the 30 to 40%. In order for you to go beyond 2% in terms of the penetration. However, e-commerce does actually provide you with a different platform for you to communicate with different types of consumers and drive not just the online but offline traffic as well. So of course, live streaming, you cannot actually talk about marketing in China market without live streaming anymore, but there's 3 different tiers of the KOLs that you can actually leverage depending on what you want to do. So what we actually see is a second tier KOL and a BA for the daily engagement. And then you have the very famous celebrity KOLs to raise awareness and convert buyers. And this works particularly well for if you are talking to very young consumers, more like teenagers, maybe in their early 20s. But this actually works the best when you're trying to convert somebody into the categories for their first trial. And then there are experts of the top manager KOLs. that was employed not just by forests, but also by household care brands like Unilever. So what happens here is they tend to capture the interest of the late 20s to the 30s better. And then this actually helps with the decision-making process when of the experienced user. So I have already used Essence water for a long time or essential oil for a long time, and I want to make sure this is the right product for me or if there is some other product. And then the knowledge and the expertise that is anchored around the top management or the professional KOLs that can actually help them convert. But depending on who your target is, you want to use different types of the KOLs for the live streaming. And then these brands, they actually use the WeChat moments or Weibo communication to make sure that they are able to not only gain the word of mouth, but also have consumers participate in their brand building as well. And of course, as I mentioned, O2O is very, very important. A beauty market in general is somewhat behind the rest of the FMCG, but we do see a strong drive coming from there. And maybe this one, not necessarily O2O sales, but O2O activation through social communication with your consumers. So some of the CRM system can actually work in a favor with consumers being notified of different deals or the new product launches, as well as the nearest stores to their locations, depending on where they are. This works very well, especially for luxury brands and some of the high tier department stores. So as we mentioned, there will be 3 different pillars for unlocking the brand growth under the new normal. The product where repair and then addressing the fundamental needs relating to the safety and the health concerns of the consumers become very, very important. But beyond just the functional care, you also want to make sure that you are able to address some of the emotional needs of the consumers, especially for the makeup brands and the luxury brands. And then for the consumers, yes, the younger consumers continue to be very, very important. However, there's an additional momentum being driven by the 30s in the recent year. We did see somewhat of a shift in terms of the additional drive and the aspirational pursuit from the lower tier city coming on very, very strong. And in terms of channel, of course, e-commerce is must not miss channel. However, it is not something that you can purely depend on because then you limit the expandability of your brand. You need to make sure that you also have a physical presence in the offline channels to ensure a higher level of brand visibility and accessibility. And you can leverage the e-commerce platform to further expand your O2O activation. Literally as well as metaphorically, to guide consumers' traffic to the offline channels by using the communication aspects of the e-commerce platforms. So that's it for me today. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thanks to Yu Chang for the informative talk of today. I'm now going to introduce to you China Beauty Expo. Every time I speak about China Beauty Expo, I like to have a video with me, because only when you look at the video you can realize what China Beauty Expo represents for the international and local market. So I like to have the video of China Beauty Expo 2020, where you could see the crowd of the people that enter in the exhibition floor. 26 years of international and Chinese existence. 26 years China Beauty Expo ran in May. It's a JV between Informa Market and Baiwan, and it has been the reference leading platform for the beauty market in the world. China Beauty Expo is a platform that helps international and local companies to penetrate in the Chinese market, international companies that are looking for importer and distributor and retailers, and international suppliers that are looking to serve the manufacturer. At the same time, Chinese companies are there to look for more distribution and penetrate more in the Chinese market, and also to showcase the latest trends of the Chinese market. When we talk about numbers, China has always numbers that cannot be compared with anyone else in the world. We talk about 3,600 exhibitors, 250,000 square meters, over 500,000 visitors. No one in the world can have such a kind of numbers. The event is mainly two different areas. You see in the PowerPoint the two main logos, China Beauty Expo and Supply World. The China Beauty Expo logo represents the finished product, represent retail market, online product, represent a spa, beauty salon, medical aesthetical beauty, and the Supply World represent the packaging, OEM, private label, machinery and ingredient, everything that is needed to supply the manufacturing market. Supply World has been a fantastic reference in the last 5 or 4 years. We have the leading international companies exhibiting that are there to serve local and international market. We have over 60 conferences at the event, and the number of international pavilions that have been taking place and part to the event is over 30 in the world. I always say to people that for the first time wants to visit the show, please come and see. Come and see because you will also see the new trends of the beauty in the market. Chinese companies are very much, in the looking and feel. And for this reason, international companies entering in the Chinese market, they need to bring what they are the best in: knowledge, marketing, promotion, texture, quality, value to their product, and companies need to come, see, and adapt, reformulate, and position in the Chinese market where they see gap available. There is still a lot that in China can be done. In China Beauty Expo 2019, our best ever flagship event, we could see the participation of 6,000 square meter Japanese company. More than 300 companies were attending. The same coming from Korea. When you have such a kind of giant, massive market that come into a show floor, this bring energy, this bring new quality of buyer every year and all the time. To understand what represents the China Beauty Expo in sectors and international participation, you can look again at the floor plan. You see that we have a floor plan that is divided by halls, and each halls represent a specific sector. We have halls for skincare, we have halls for oral care, for color cosmetic, for makeup accessory, for beauty personal care. And when you go into the hall, into our journey in the show floor, you will see the European pavilion with Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Switzerland and Poland, and individual companies that are coming from UK and East European country. And then you have Asia journey, where the biggest one is Japan and Korea. And you see these pavilions that are even occupying an entire hall. Japanese pavilion is one full hall with 300 companies. You see also the importance of certain brands. You will see in the slides that we have brands like L'Oreal, like Nippon Menard from Japan, and at the same time we have brands in the spine beauty salon, La Colline and Albion, and we also have important brands that are coming from Cosé, Haven, and of course all the brands that are the medium-level brands that enter and penetrate the Chinese market. The first number one category represented is the skincare. The second one is the personal care, and then makeup tools, facial mask, oral care, paper, baby children, household cleaning, and fragrances. When you look at visitors is quite interesting to have a look at the slide of the visitors, because the visitors we have 34% that are coming from retailer offline, 30% online retailer, of which 8% coming from Taobao, which is the most important retailer online in China, 29% represented by agent, importers and distributors, and 3% from media and press. If you want to see what these people are looking for, the most biggest research is coming from skincare and personal care, and then there is makeup and fragrances, personal care and tool, and even beauty supplement, and then baby children care. We have also considered that the visitors, the job profile of the visitors that are coming to the show is high. We have a director, we have a general manager, marketing director, and import-export director. Professional beauty salon. For the professional beauty salon, the major, research and category of exhibit is given to beauty equipment. Professional beauty equipment are in the top, and then there is nail and eyelash, and then health, what we call the beauty health daily clinic. We have companies like Babor, like Matisse, like Natura Bissé, Comfort Zone. We have LPG. These are companies that talk very much to the international audience that we have today. When we go to see the professional visitors of these categories, 49% is coming from beauty salon center, 42% are distributors and wholesaler, and 8% are association. What they are looking for, what is their business center? Mainly beauty salon, and mainly nail and eyelashes, and medical beauty center are coming as third. When we look at distributor and importer, the number one is beauty salon product and equipment, and then medical beauty is immediately second. Lot of forum. Because China Beauty Expo is not only a business event driving importer, China Beauty Expo is a learning platform and a networking platform. So we run a lot of forums that put together the international and the local knowledge. This forum keep the people in the show floor for 3 entire days. Few words on our important flagship, that is the Supply World. Supply World represents the most international area of China Beauty Expo. These companies are the key leading companies that are serving the worldwide luxury segment and mass market segment in the world. We see international companies that have factories in China, and they are completely able to serve local and international market from their China hub. We have packaging, innovative packaging, OEM, premium makeup, and then machinery, advanced science and innovation, and then also IP licensing and manufacturer. Who are the visitors for this, who are the exhibitor for all this supply world? I want to list some of our friends in the world: Cosmax, Intercos, Cosmeca, Tolly, Simrise, DMS, B-Color, and Aptar. These are the most important companies that are serving the global manufacturing world. The visitors of this supply world: 62% brand owner, 15% retailer, 30% agent, and 8% it's media. You will see in our PowerPoint, you will see, all the different networking activity that we organize. Very important, the retail summit. We have a full day of retail summit one day before the show, and we have business to business meeting that help the pre-matching of importer and new clients, newcomers to the Chinese market. I really hope you could learn something new today. Stay tuned to all our social network. China Beauty Expo will run in Shanghai from 12 to 14 May 2021. please consider myself a colleague, agent, and association available for any question and need. We are there to facilitate your business with China. We are there to look for importer for the Chinese market and there to help you to look for manufacturer for the supply chain. Informa Market is the leading global international companies in exhibition business, run 560 events every year. Beauty division count 13 events. In China, we have our flagship international event in Shanghai, China Beauty Expo, every year. In south of China, a new cooperation between Informa Market Bologna Fiere and Baiwan for South China Beauty Expo in Shenzhen. We run twice a year in Chengdu, West South China, China Chengdu Beauty Expo. Outside China, in the global market, together with Bologna Fiere, Cosmoprof Asia in Hong Kong, Cosmoprof India in Mumbai, and a new cooperation just signed between Informa Market Bologna Fiere and Baiwan, Cosmoprof CBE ASEAN every year in Bangkok. Informa Market is very much present in the ASEAN business and market. We have in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, Beauty Expo and Cosmobote, in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, Viet Beauty and Cosmobote, in Philippines, in Manila, Phil Beauty, and in Jakarta, in Indonesia, Cosmobote Indonesia. I'd like to welcome on stage Ilyaja Walley, Chief Manager Officer of Parlux by Launch Matrix. Parlux by Launch Matrix is the leading influencer platform in China. They are the curator of the major key opinion leader, and they are able to serve fashion, beauty, and food market, targeting and hitting young and middle generation of large consumer in China. Welcome on stage, Ilyaja Walley.
Thank you, Claudia, for the kind introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I'm excited to walk you through my presentation here. So just to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about Parkloo by Launchmetrics. I'm originally from the American Midwest. I started with KOLs back in 2014 and founded a beauty KOL named Lilium Fu. And that grew into her becoming one of the most successful beauty KOLs in China. And through that, I was introduced to the CEO of Parkloo and joined Parkloo. And so I have a really good perspective of KOL marketing and specifically beauty KOLs in China, from working and growing with a KOL, and then also from working with beauty brands, from the technology and campaign and data side. And so hopefully I get to present that kind of well-rounded information to you. Parkloo by Launchmetrics, or Parkloo was recently acquired just a few months ago by Launchmetrics. Parkloo is a KOL relationship management platform. So we help brands connect with KOLs through technology and use monitoring systems and management for KOL campaigns and helping brands scale that out. So we have KOLs all across the country. We're really focused on China and Chinese social media platforms. And most of the brands we work with focus on fashion, luxury, and beauty industry. And so, so we have that nice target for us to walk through. So for today's agenda, I'm going to talk about what's hot in Chinese platforms and kind of how they work and how we can think about them. What do beauty KOLs do to impress Chinese customers? And then the customer's journey and how it melds with KOL marketing. And then some takeaways from domestic beauty brands. Because at this time, domestic beauty brands, Chinese brands are really killing it, and they're doing things just a little bit differently. That's really giving them some market dominance and growing their market share. And I think it's important for us to look at how and why that's working. So to start off here is the Chinese social media platforms at a glance. One of the things to really understand here is just kind of the dominance of key opinion leaders in the decision-making process, and how that's transferred over to what marketers and media agencies are doing to communicate with customers. And there hasn't been a lot of change from 2019 to now as far as the share of working with KOLs as far as the media buying and marketing approach. But you can kind of see that a lot of things are kind of in decline, except for short videos and live streaming. We really saw live streaming, the importance of short videos and live streaming in 2020 become really, really dominant. And that's because, you know, obviously everybody was staying at home more and shopping behaviors had changed. But communicating with those customers, a lot of that is still being done through KOLs. And that's because the engagement with social media, people have consolidated around these key opinion leaders and what they have to say. One of the things that's really interesting about the Chinese social media ecosystem and commerce and content platforms, you know, sometimes it's very overwhelming for people to consider how many social platforms that there are, and commerce platforms and communication and content. But what's actually really interesting is all of these platforms are actually essentially the same from a functionality standpoint. They all have communication ability, they all have content, they all have commerce, they all have payments. And so really what makes them distinctly different is actually the user intentionality. So when a user accesses one of these apps, what are they expecting to get out of it? So what is that value proposition? What is the value that a user is trying to extract from that application and their experience with it? And this is a really, really important dynamic for trying to understand how we should market on any given platform, and what our KOL campaign should look like. And so WeChat is primarily a communication platform. And so that's one of the reasons why for many businesses, it's become a little bit like a CRM, and where you manage relationships with customers. Weibo is this peripheral news and celebrity gossip platform. And so your information on there should be very trendy and keeping up with what's going on in the peripherals of news and such. Xiaohongshu has become a really important part of the journey for customers to make purchase decisions. It's seen as an authentic platform where customers go to suss out whether a product is something they really want based on what other customers are saying. And then Douyin, I affectionately and jokingly call Douyin a bathroom reader. So it's a place where people go to waste time. It's where they want to be something funny and short and engaging and stimulating. And so content on there needs to be very quick and needs to be this idea of a gift of mindlessness content, and that's okay. And so approaching each one of these platforms is going to be really interesting dynamic, and something that should always be taken into consideration. So when we look at Chinese social media apps at a glance, obviously WeChat is super, super dominant. But when it actually comes to KOL marketing, it's a tough platform, because it's not a place where people are going so much to consume content anymore. WeChat is trying to make changes with their channels platform and short video and some things that I think potentially have a chance to change value exchange. But at this point, it's not really a great place for content or creating awareness for a brand. Douyin, over the last few years has come kind of out of nowhere and become very dominant in people's lives as far as what they consume regular pieces of content with. Weibo is, again, a big platform that can't be denied as far as its ability to reach the masses. Bilibili is an up-and-comer. I think it's going to be the YouTube of the future in China. And Xiaohongshu, again, has this very niche value proposition with young women in China and in their purchase journey. It's actually declined in user growth over the last couple of years, but it's still extremely important and always should be considered, especially for beauty brands. So we'll just quickly kind of go over a little bit of a kind of a SWOT analysis of these platforms. So WeChat is a ubiquitous platform. It's used by everyone. It's everywhere. There's lots of cool opportunities in SEO and their mini programs. This is where we get into that kind of CRM-based point. The disadvantages are working with KOLs, it's very expensive and there's a very low probability of virality. And that's just because of the sharing mechanisms built in. Weibo has this opportunities for impressions and virality. Things can blow up there. One of the problems might be, though, it's a little bit of pay to play. Opportunities are actually content diversity. So it has everything from short videos to articles to pictures to live streaming. It's got everything in there. And then you can pay for visibility. As much visibility as you want, Weibo is happy to sell you. Disadvantages are it has some very unique rules in there, some collaboration kind of complications with KOLs, and then also it's very susceptible to bot traffic and click farms. And I think it has a very high percentage of zombie accounts that are actually controlled by Weibo itself. So we just always have to be aware of that. Hey, you might be reaching hundreds of millions of people, but what percentage of those are live, real, active accounts, even if it's very inexpensive. Douyin, obviously, it's got this popularity and hype. The engagement, virality potential on the platform is huge. There's lots of opportunity in actually location discovery. So if you're having offline events, it's a really, really great place where if you're tagging content by location, that people in that location are able to see that or close by. It has and has traditionally had really open platform for external linking to other content platforms or e-commerce. They're becoming more and more of a walled garden. So they're starting to close off linking to, the JDs and Alibaba type accounts. So it's becoming more difficult this way. But this is because Douyin is becoming a platform where just like others, they're really going to become an e-commerce competitor. I really see in the future there's a chance for Douyin to take market share away from the Taobaos and potentially even Tmals of China, which is very interesting. The disadvantages working with KOLs, though, is there's no guaranteed traffic. No matter how big a KOL is, there is a lot of risk around how much visibility any given video is going to have, because their AI is trained for virality. And so if a video doesn't go viral, the reach is going to be very limited, which just because you're working with a big KOL, what it means is it doesn't guarantee you're going to have massive reach. And then the other thing is the platform is, is matured now. And we don't know what that means for the future of it. It's got a very solid space in the market, but we don't know what's going to happen in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And we know in China, things can move very fast and things can rotate in and out because of that. Weitao and Taobao live streaming. Weitao is the integrated social media platform into Taobao and Tmall. Obviously, it benefits greatly from this idea of user intentionality. When people log into Taobao or Tmall, they're in buying mode. They want to buy something. And so any content they engage with, there's a huge opportunity there to get someone in that buying intentionality mode. They're going there for that. There's lots of opportunities around search engine optimization, making sure that keywords and content is created properly. It's also considered very low cost. A lot of the social platforms have become very expensive from a CPM, cost per thousand reach. And Weitao is considered still very inexpensive, even from a KOL's perspective. The disadvantage is it's not pure social media, nor pure content. And so again, its reach and virality can be very limited by that. And it's a little bit of a pay to play kind of platform. Bilibili, I think the advantages, I'm the most hopeful about Bilibili at this point, because it's been around for a long time. But it's now just kind of burgeoning and blossoming. And so because of that, it's got revenue structures to encourage UGC. There's lots of room for growth still on the platform. They're focused on a lot of educational content. It's one of the few places people are going for UGC that's long form. And then it's just got a lot of user engagement. People love the platform. They've done a really great job with curating a unique community in there. And those opportunities are with Gen Z who love the platform and this idea of danmo, this sliding across comments, and it just makes for a fun, engaging environment. There's a lot of cool collaborations going on with brands and even brand channels on there. And then just like most platforms, the difference is competitiveness. People go on, and once they start following someone, they actually, unlike Kuaishou or Douyin, they're actually quite dedicated to the people that they follow. And so building an account might be challenging, but that's also good for working with KOLs, because once they have a solid following of people that watch their stuff regularly, you can tap into that community. And that's a great advantage for campaigns. Little Red Book, again, this is very, very niche. As long as you want to speak to women from 18 to 35 years old and you're trying to sell them something, beauty or fashion related, potentially even travel, it's a really great place for that. It has this demographic, psychographic focus. There is room for growth. I'm not sure that it's going to grow. I feel like Xiaohongshu shoots itself in the foot a lot because of its purist kind of mentality. But I have a lot of respect for the CEO because of that. Opportunities in search engine optimization, or this idea of social search, and it is a search engine. You really should think about Little Red Book as this very perfect example of Web 2.0. A lot of opportunities around location discovery. The disadvantages, again, are they've been shooting themselves in the foot over some things around anti-influencer rules. So collaborating with KOLs can be very challenging. And then it's kind of they've taken some learning from their investors of Alibaba in this kind of B2B profit play. And in some ways it's mucking up their environment a little bit. And so we'll see how they are. But for right now, for beauty category, it's a very, very solid application with a large user base. Keep is also an interesting place for male beauty. It has this high retention, high user liveliness, and very clear user profiles. There's great opportunity in UGC, so motivating your customers to create content, and then competitiveness around that. And then this kind of more of a male focus, if that's what the cosmetics you're selling. So moving on here. So what do beauty KOLs do to impress Chinese customers? It's really interesting because it kind of spans the whole spectrum here. We have everything from, beauty tutorials or classic tutorials to unboxing, to sharing just their experiences in life, reviewing products in a whole. We see this kind of thing on Little Red Book a lot, and a lot of brands are resistant to this idea of that you would run a campaign and potentially examine other products. But this is something that's very, very popular on platforms. Then just sharing products people like, celebrity topics, what are celebrities using, price advantages. We've seen, Chinese customers can be very price sensitive. It's one of the reasons why live streams have become so popular, is this idea that everything that's being sold is at the best price it's ever going to be available at, or for whatever they've agreed upon there. And so these are all opportunities and things that brands should look at and should consider. Hey, how can we position our product and the timing of our release for products within these categories, or when we're working with different KOLs to focus on their different specialty within that. And then also considering the application. Like I said, Xiaohongshu, if you're going to work on their Little Red Book, that potentially looking at multi-brand promotion kind of stuff and examining products across the spectrum. So customers' journey and how that fits into KOL marketing. KOLs are a very important form of marketing that can cover all aspects of the journey here. And really what that kind of means is KOLs bring inspiration, social inspiration to the buyer's journey. So creating that awareness. And that awareness then filters into family and friends. So the most influential, the real KOLs of our lives are our family and our friends. And so when they recommend a product or service, that has a really, really strong impact on us. So what are you doing to make sure that when you work with a KOL, that filters into those followers, then also being able to share that again? So providing some sort of, campaign mechanism in there that rewards people for talking. The offline inspiration, this idea that you're bringing KOLs offline. We see also KOLs now are also being brought into the research phases of products. So that idea that your content comes into the consideration marketing, not just this top line awareness, but when customers are actually wanting to make decisions and they're logging into Xiaohongshu, where is that content coming from? And is it coming from someone who's not just has a large following, but is articulate and able to communicate the value proposition of any product or service? And then also in that purchase stage, that we're at the final end of that funnel. So what are KOLs doing to make that final push, or also make customers advocates and create a beneficial cycle there in the entire customer journey? Chinese customers are heavily influenced by KOLs and their content on social platforms. Throughout this, we know that customers use social platforms. 50% of them use social to make brand decisions, so they're generating awareness there. We see a lot of impulse buying. 40% of impulse buying is done through social media, and then customers gain knowledge and they're actually evaluating products in social. And so we just know that KOLs are an important part of all of these things, through creating awareness, through impulse purchases, and through this idea of actually considering and doing the research on whether this is a decision they want to make. And part of that is understanding this typical Chinese customer requires 8 brand touch points before making a purchase decision, which is twice as many as Western customers. And if we think about that, what that means is that there is a more holistic kind of approach that you have to communicating with Chinese customers, that you need to be there and available on every place that they want to research or interact with your brand and learn about your brand. And knowing that content is kind of a gift. It's part of this cycle of reciprocity, which is very normal in the Chinese culture. And KOLs have built up large storehouses of reciprocity with customers, and content is the main part of that they've provided value through education or entertainment. And this is a unique touch point. And it's also one that filters, not just like we said before, not just from awareness, but through consideration and even post-purchase engagement with customers. So why do customers trust in KOLs? KOLs have these distinct characteristics, which each KOL has a different value proposition. Whether they be a gender fluid guy who is teaching women about makeup, or a woman that is transforming her look, or someone who's teaching you how to look like a celebrity. There's so many different KOLs with different value propositions, and different types of people follow different types of KOLs. And so understanding, often it's not really sometimes even understanding about a KOL, but understanding about their audience and trying to understand what is their audience trying to get out of this interaction with this person. KOLs also, they grew out of this idea of higher quality content. So, and we've seen this over the years, the quality of KOL content has gotten quite extreme, actually, as we've seen people exit out of different creative fields and into KOLs, or on the KOL teams, or in their MCNs. And so the quality of content, writing and pictures and video and things, has gotten very, very elevated. And there's a distinctive difference between really traditional UGC and this kind of PGC, professional generated content, that comes from them. And then they also have a really unique, special connection with customers, or your customers or potential customers, is that they have, again, this idea of they've built up a lot of reciprocity and value with customers by delivering content over a long period of time. And so it's not a short interaction of, I I made a funny video and then you followed me, which is what creates you weaker connections on platforms like Douyin, but that you have a strong value proposition that's built over time. And it's one of the reasons why we talk about always on KOL marketing, this idea that you don't just work with a KOL once, but you work with them over and over, because it's part of this relationship building with the KOL, and relationship building with their audience, and relationship building with the KOL with their audience, and supporting and being a part of this holistic cycle. And so one of the things we like to look at too is this idea of celebrities versus influencers versus advocates, because this is part of this holistic cycle we're trying to create. You know, celebrities, typically when you work with them, they have a very, very broad appeal. And so they kind of reach everyone. Everybody knows them, and they maybe see them wearing stuff in magazines or movies or TV or on the street or whatever. And so they have a broad appeal, but there's only a certain portion of their followers that are going to be potentially interested in your brand or your products. And this is where influencers become interesting, because they're typically able to have a very focused audience that you can predict are going to be likely to be more interested in your products. And so they create this top line awareness, bringing customers into consideration. And that's where the content also that they create is in this engagement state of like, hey, I want to do more research into this, and then pushing them down through decision into becoming a customer. And then we have this new term, and which is very important, is this idea of KOCs, key opinion customers. And really what those are is advocates. And this is where you get this really, really nice cycle where an influencer then creates advocates for your brand, or KOC for your brand. And their content, well, one, they rebuy your products. Two, they create content that can influence people and become part of the research stage. And then they tell their family and friends, which generates awareness. And then you get this really nice holistic cycle. So what are you doing at each one of these stages to create a very holistic environment around your influencer marketing approach, you know, for your beauty brand? So 4 takeaways. I think this is a really important part, and an important part to listen to, of what Chinese domestic beauty brands are doing differently. Because what they're doing seems to be working as far as giving them market share and creating interest in the market from customers. One is this idea of bold and extensive collaborations. We see really, really interesting collaborations, everything from Perfect Diary working with the Discovery Channel to make, you know, kind of like different animal patterned makeups and such. My personal favorite was Perfect Diary working with the British Museum, and also working with different museums around the world. They're rolling that out over time. This makes really, really unique collections, a very beautiful makeup also. Marie Delgar collaborating with KFC, which seems ridiculous, but at the same time, it makes sense, because there's a love and a passion for KFC in China that's quite unique. And it's also, it's interesting. It's kind of shocking, and it's kind of something that people are excited to see and be engaged with. And then also this idea, there was one where it was a national treasure kind of documentary, and supporting Chinese culture. And Chinese culture, the importance of Chinese culture is another thing that's rising in popularity in China right now, and being identified with that. Products for hot topics. So wearing the green cap, really, and this is also another example of collaboration, Marie Delgar with Heineken, but they really understand Chinese culture and this idea of imprinting yourself into that Chinese culture and nostalgia and such. Fresh faces, we see brands really working with new celebrities. As soon as they're starting to potentially go, you know, hyperbolic, they start to work with them right away and align themselves with those faces and those new people coming up. And then creative new retail, what some of these Chinese brands are doing with multi-brand stores and their own stores, and really doing something different offline to create environments where customers are engaged and maybe capturing and sharing themselves, is really, really interesting and very, very unique to the market. So that is our time. I really appreciate you tuning in. It was wonderful to talk to you. And if you need to reach out to us, here is our contact information. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks Elijah Worley for the great insight of today, and now I welcome on stage Jason Chen, International Affairs Regulatory Director of Zhijiao Zhahao, a company able to explain which are the update of the regulatory importation good into the Chinese market. Welcome on stage, Jason Chen.
Okay, thanks Claudia for your invitation. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jason Chen from Zhejiang Zhongmao Co. Limited. I'm specialized in the regulatory consulting service with over 10 years experience. Today, I'm so glad to be invited by CBE to share the latest hot topic, not only in China, but also in countries who are dealing with cosmetic business in China. That is about cosmetic regulatory updates and its compliance strategy. Today, we will share 3 parts of content under the China cosmetic regulations. Firstly, we will share the filing and the registration data analysis in 2020. Secondly, I will give some key points under the new CSAR to share with you. We will also introduce about the hot concern topic about animal testing in 2020. Thirdly, after the detailed analysis of China regulatory trends, we will give you the suggestions for preparing 2021 under the new cosmetic regulation in China. So firstly, let's take a look at the first portion, the filing and the registration of cosmetic data analysis in China in 2020. I'm sure you will feel that the filing data is amazing. Additionally, let me simply explain about the filing. Actually, it is very similar to the definition of a notification on the EU cosmetic regulation. Because this is the official translation by NMPA, so we use the same definition. So afterwards, if I'm talking about the filing, you can replace it as notification in your mind. So it's easy for your understanding. So let's take a look at the statistics about 2010. If you look at the whole trends, you will see the global market is going down a little bit because affected by COVID-19. However, in China, the market is developing still very fast. If you look at the first figure about imported general cosmetics, you will see totally it covers 21,752 SKU. If compared with 2019, it has increased over 30% because the regulation haven't greatly changed for the imported general cosmetics. So all imported cosmetic products into China market is very stable and it is still increasing very fast. But compared domestic general cosmetics and domestic special use cosmetics, it is a bit down because it is also affected by COVID-19 at the beginning of 2020. So the figure is still very stable. But compared, the imported special use cosmetics it is going down 47%. It is not affected by the COVID-19 because of the policy for cosmetic regulations has been changed. If you learned about a little bit about CSAR, you will know the regulation has been greatly changed in 2020. Currently, over 70,000 cosmetics companies have filed or registered. About 5,400 companies hold the manufacturing certificates. According to the incomplete statistics, more than 90% of enterprises use OEM. And if you calculate for all cosmetic products, 75% of those total products are produced by OEM in China. So This is a very important. You will see the whole giants is the scale is increasing steadily, and the quantity of products are increasing very quickly. The whole cosmetic industry in China is developing rapidly. So let's take a look at for the cosmetic market share in 2020 in China. If you have also learned about the previous 2 years about market share in China, you will see it is quite similar. You will see the top 3 is always South Korea, France, and Japan, those 3 countries. And the first place is United States, and Germany is ranked as number 6. And those top 3 is already very stable, as I have mentioned. If you see the data in 2019, South Korea is about 31%. And if you compare the figure in 2018, the figure is about 32%. So this is very similar, even in 2020. And you will see the right side, the company name for top 10 is also very stable. Mostly foreign companies to enter China market. And you will see the top 1, LG, had filed over 415 SKU. And second place is MAC from United States. It's also almost reached 400. And for this year, I think one of the important policy is called RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is a free trade agreement between the Asia Pacific nations of Australia, Brunei, Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Japan, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. Those 15 member countries account for over 30% of the world population, which include 2.2 billion people, and over 30% of global GDP as of 2020, making it the biggest trade bloc in history. And you will see the following data we have prepared for 2020 for cosmetic industry. You will see South Korea is also reached the number 1, very stable. And the second place is about Japan. And Australia is ranked as number 3. I think this will bring lots of opportunities for Asian countries, because you will see the right side of this chart, including Indonesia, the Philippines, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar. Those countries almost haven't imported any kind of cosmetic products into China yet. So in the future, if RCEP had been formally effective, I think it will stimulate those countries to export their local cosmetic products into China. And another perspective is about Japan, because under the RCEP, Japan will reach the free trade agreement with China. So it will also encourage lots of Japanese companies to enter China market, including the cosmetic industry. And for this chart, we will analyze about imported cosmetics and domestic cosmetics distribution. Firstly, let's look at the left side chart. You will see Shanghai, Guangdong, Zhejiang. Those 3 coast cities location had taken up the majority of company location. I think the most important thing will include the infrastructure, the supply chain, and the transportation are more convenient. So they choose those regions to set up their companies. Secondly, if we're talking about the manufacturers' location, you will look at the right side. Guangdong province has taken over half of manufacturers in the whole nation. That's absolutely true, because Guangdong is known as the world's factory. So it also attracts lots of manufacturers to set up their company for Guangdong province. And this slide shows hot ingredients, which is popularly used in the imported general cosmetics. From the top, you will see it is about the skin conditioner. Because of COVID-19, it changed all people's daily life. So wearing masks is very necessary. It is required to protect our skin in face. So it also requires more consumers. They want to protect, to repair their skins. So such kind of ingredient has been widely used for imported cosmetic products. So let's take a look at the second portion. We will show you about the key points under the China new cosmetic regulations. In short, we call the CSER. As for this chart, for most of the people, they have already been learned a lot, because in 2020, we're already talking about the CSER, which the full name is Cosmetic Supervision and Administration Regulation. It has been released since June 29th in 2020, and it has been implemented since January 1st, 2021. Because of this basic law changed, then all the supporting guidance and standards are also necessary to be updated, amended, or new published. As you can see in this flow chart, under the CSER, we have lots of new regulations and standards were published recently, and some of them are completely new, such as new cosmetic ingredient registration, cosmetic safety assessment, and efficacy claim. Yeah, this kind of a new element has been added into such kind of a new cosmetic regulation. It is obvious that changes on 2021 will have a revolutionary impact on the cosmetic industry. But please also remember those guidance are all under the public consulting period and estimated to be formally released before May 1st. And we will keep you updated if there are any changes. So firstly, let's analyze the different definitions about cosmetics in different countries, including China, EU, US, Japan, and South Korea. So if you look at the first definition in China, the definition compared with the previous version, it hasn't changed a lot. It is about 3 portions. First, about methods. Second, about the position. And thirdly, about the purpose. So you compare the EU, it is about the position and the purpose. And the US also, the definition includes the position and the purpose. But Japan is also very similar. I think compared, China has more contents in the definition. But about the difference between those definitions for cosmetics in China, I think additionally we called about the oral products. In EU, it has been listed into the cosmetic products. But in China, they're still not in the scope of cosmetics definition. So there's a question for you may think about. If L'Oreal China factory manufactured the products, it is belong to domestic products or imported cosmetic products. The answer is products that are the last manufacturing process that contact the contents belong to imported cosmetics, which means if you ship semi-finished products into China and fill locally as final process, it will belong to domestic manufactured cosmetics. For the cosmetics classification, it also changed. Special cosmetics refer to 6 categories. And part the special cosmetics belong to general cosmetics. Please be aware of the soap is not cosmetics unless it claims the special functions as listed above. And toothpaste should not be managed as cosmetic products. It will be referring to the general cosmetics, but still not the scope of cosmetics products. So you will see this chart, the previous version concluded 9 categories: anti-sports, hairspray, deodorant, UV protection, breast beauty, party, and the hair dye, body fitness, hair growth. And the new version, it is shortened to be 5 category plus the new efficacy claim. In short, we normally call about 5 plus X. Yeah, this is easy for you to understand the 5 plus X. Okay, so you will see the cosmetics you have been registered for hair growth, deparlation, beauty. How could you to process? And according to the new CSAR, they will give you how to say it's a grace period for those six categories. It is kind of 3 years of a transition period for your understanding to learn and to continue your marketing and process. We also have sourced from NPA. It is over 1,885 such kind of 5 category of cosmetic products will be still be effective during the transition period. But after the transition period, they will expire, and the producers and manufacturers, importers will not allowed to process such kind of trading. So let's give you an example for such kind of transition period products. One of the special cosmetic we call the hair growth. We will analyze such kind of products according to different function and different usage. For example, the first category we call about hair growth to prevent hair loss by improving hair quality. It was listed into non-special use cosmetics. Also, we call the general cosmetics in CSAR. And for the second category, we talk about prevent hair loss by improving scalp condition. And this will still considered to be the special use of cosmetics. But for promoting hair growth by participating in human physiological activities, were considered to be the drugs. It will managed according to the drug regulation in China. And this slide just analyze the different responsibilities and qualifications for different roles in marketing and roles. The first we'll talk about a registrant and filing person, which is also considered to be the brands and the ingredient manufacturers. So the responsibility will conclude the quality and the safety and the efficacy claim. If there are any accident about quality and safety, the registrant and filing person will take the fully responsibilities. And for the responsible person, they will also have to undertake such kind of responsibilities and obligations, including the cosmetics registration, cosmetic adverse reaction monitoring, products recall, new cosmetics ingredients, markets monitoring. So new obligations have been added into the whole supply chain from the brand to the downstream users. And this slide just shows the different monitoring system, including the adverse reaction monitoring and the evaluation system. So there will be lots of standards and requirements for such kind of talents if you want to recruit in your team. And you have to qualify the person to be responsible for adverse reaction monitoring and evaluation system. So there are two sides. Firstly, you must have a qualified person to take the responsibility. And secondly, you have to build up such kind of evaluation system. The system should be covered the whole supply chain, not only for manufacturers, but also for the traders and also for the different roles in the cosmetic marketing. And I think one of the key points you have learned about the cosmetics efficacy claim. And since 2021, all the kinds of cosmetic products have to take up such kind of compliance solutions according to the guidelines for the evaluation of cosmetic efficacy claims. Now it is still the draft version. I think it will be released for the final version recently. So many of our products, if you want to declare the efficacy claim, then you have to take up the efficacy claim tests. Let's take a look at. So for the such kind of products, including beauty, modify, aroma effects, and the cleaning, such kind of products have to carry on such kind of efficacy claim, and specific effects should be evaluated accordingly, including but not limited to sun protection, whitening and freckle removal, hair growth, beauty milk, body building, deodorization, anti-wrinkle, anti-acne, or control, anti-dandruff, repair, yeah, such kind of products. So you have to analyze different category of products. So you have to know what kind of efficacy claim had to be processed. So these slides will show you clearly about what type of products have to carry on the efficacy claim. So you will see from the this chart, for example, for anti-hair loss, the human body testing is necessary to process. And some of the products for for hair care, you can choose any of the following methods. For example, for the literature information, and secondly, you can use human body testing, and thirdly, you can use consumers for test. And firstly, you can choose a laboratory test. So you can choose any of the following methods. So if your products are listed in this table, then you have to analyze what kind of efficacy claim or literature information can be processed. And this slide just show you the whole process for non-special use cosmetics. We also call the non-special use cosmetics as well. Meanwhile, if talking about cross-border e-commerce, since September 17th, more testing will be involved for the products sell at Tmall Global. So, which means in the future, if you use cross-border e-commerce, they will also require you to follow up the new CSAR regulation. Which means online and offline both will be strictly supervised. According to the inspection by NMPA in 2020, NMPA will also supervise lots of online platform which sells cosmetics products. And the next step, let's talking about the animal testing. I think this is one of the concerned topic. On 2013, the domestic and non-special use cosmetics are exempted from mandatory animal testing if the safety of the products can be fully confirmed by safety assessment reports. So currently, if your products are manufactured in domestic China, they don't need to do the animal testing. Unfortunately, the imported non-special use cosmetic are not being exempted animal testing in 2020. But right now, you might get a lot of information that animal testing has been exempted since 2021, like the article above. But in the future, for special use cosmetics and the new ingredients, if you want to exempt animal testing, you have to wait step by step. And this slide just show you about the history about animal testing year by year. So the recent one is about the cosmetic registration filing information. So which means the animal testing exemption is conditional. You have to follow up such kind of rules and for example, the product claims to be used by children. The products use new cosmetic law and materials during the monitoring period. According to the quantitative grading results, the filing person, the domestic response person, and the manufacturer are listed as key supervision objects. Or the filing person has violated the regulations in China, then they cannot avoid the animal testing. So they will check the history of the company and the responsible person in China. And the next step is about the product safety assessment reports. So in the new regulation, they will use a product safety assessment report to replace some of the animal testing. And the next slide about product classification rules. It has concluded 28 categories of different functions. Also conclude other new functions. So you have to compare that your products had been listed in those 28 functions or not. If not, then new function will be considered to be listed into such kind of list, and you have to carry on the new function efficacy claim testing. And let's take a look at about the new ingredient, because the new CSAR has taken up about the classification for different kinds of products, including the products, but also for the different ingredients. If you compare the ingredients internationally or in China, currently in International Cosmetic Ingredients Dictionary and Handbook, it has covered 22,000. It has concluded 22,620 ingredients. But compared China IECIC 2015 version, it has only concluded 8,783 ingredients. And compared speaking, we have only reached 1/3 of ingredients for internationally. So this will restrict lots of new products to enter China market. So in new CSAR, they have removed the restriction. They encouraged people to use new ingredient into different kind of cosmetic products. So they will treat different risks of ingredients. For oyster, surfactants, high molecular polymers, and plant extracts, they were considered to be the low-risk ingredients. And for low-risk ingredients, they can use filing process. They will greatly shorten the process for the whole market access. However, some kind of high-risk ingredients, for example, for the preservatives, sunscreen, currants, hair dye, freckle removal, and whitening functions, those kind of high-risk ingredients still considered to be the high risk, then they will still follow up the registration process. And these slides just show you how to identify the whole process for registration. And the new cosmetic ingredients, as I have mentioned, they will give you 3 years for monitoring periods. If it is safe, then it will list it into ICRC. If not, they will cancel. So lastly, let me introduce about the compliance strategy and the suggestions. I think we can analyze the whole cosmetic regulation compliance into one chart. So this chart just show you in new CSAR, you have to follow up different requirements, including the product filing, registration, and also you have to follow up the supervision on market, and you have to have the qualified quality management system, and you have to analyze the ingredients and the tracing. And for your final products, your claims, your packaging, your product safety assessment are all important. So in the future, you will have carry on more testing. You will have more responsibilities. You have to prepare more documents to provide the certifications to NMPA for your filing and the registration process. However, you will also see the animal testing exemption in China is going on step by step. Also, the safety assessment report had been used in the new CSAR. And meanwhile, for new ingredients filing, it will be more helpful and more efficient for ingredient companies. So, thank you for listening. And this slide just show the code about our company, Zhongmao. And the right side is my WeChat code. If you have any questions, you can reach me, my email address or my WeChat. Thank you very much.
I really hope you could learn some good insight today. Thank you very much to the panel of the speaker, and I want to thank all our friends around the world. I would like to start from Europe. I would like to thank IKV and LMI for Germany, Cosmetic Valley and Juliette Banzi for France, Polcharm for Poland, Global Swiss Enterprises in Switzerland, eChex in Spain, Italian Fair with Nicolo in Italy, and in Asia, I would like to start from Korea, Coeco and Cotra, Japan, JETRO and the Japanese Association, in Hong Kong TDC and Hong Kong Trade Association. In Taipei, we have Simon Lee and the 7 different associations we are cooperating with. We would like also to thank different associations that are part of the ASEAN Cosmetic Association. The ASEAN Cosmetic Association is doing a great business in the relationship between ASEAN countries and China. We thanks very much Kutkan Mani at the head of TCMA in Thailand. Thank you very much to Li Pan at the head of the Malaysian Association, and thank you very much to Emil in Philippines, head of the ASEAN Cosmetic Association and board member of the Philippine Association. And then Juanita in Indonesia at the head of the Precosme Association. We cooperate with China Beauty Expo with PCPC in the United States, and we cooperate with Ruben Rondinelli in South America as well. Thank you very much to all our beauty community friends, to the media. Mr. Sang and Ing Sang are joining me to wish you all the best for 2021. And we say to you, save the dates. China Beauty Expo will run in Shanghai from 12 to 14 May 2021, and meet soon.